kicking journey has officially begun. It's day one, and I hit the field to kick. Started off with a time lapse of some kickoffs. Not all of my kickoffs. I realized I should start recording after I'd already started. Off the camera, I was kicking probably around 40-yard kickoffs. So from the own 40 to the opposing 20 to 25, so 40 yards if I was lucky. By the end of the kickoff part that I did today, I was kicking the ball to the other 15, so I got it up to 45 yards, and it felt pretty consistent. Legs started to get a little bit tired on kickoffs, so I decided I would start working on my accuracy of PATs and field goals. So starting with PATs, those are pretty easy for me. I am obviously just kicking off a tee, so there's no timing or anything like that. It's pretty simple. I work on getting the ball up rather than out so I can be ready for someone trying to block the kick potentially. But there's nothing too special about that. Field goals, my long for today was a 35-yarder, which isn't great. I feel like I could kick longer. I just wasn't hitting the ball great today. I need to work on that. However, I do feel pretty consistent with my kicking. A lot of my balls seem to be coming off my foot right. They're spinning the way the pros seem to spin their kicks, and the ball is going straight for the most part. I just need to work on strengthening my leg and learning how to put more power into the kick, using my whole body, using a little twisting action, and maybe adjusting my run-up to do so. My friend Charlie was up there kicking with me. You'll see him in a few kicks. Gannon, my brother, was kicking a little bit too, and then Cade was up there just hanging out with us. That's all I got for today's kicking. It's pretty short, so I decided I would talk about something else today, and that is the kicking of the weekend. Today's Monday, so I thought, why not recap what we saw over the weekend? So I'll start with college football on Saturday. The Iowa kicker, Keith Duncan, made a field goal to win their rivalry game against Nebraska. And obviously you would say Iowa should have won by more. It shouldn't have been a problem, but being a rivalry game, I guess I'll excuse it. Well, Scott Frost, the Nebraska head coach, called 2 timeouts trying to ice Keith Duncan when he was lining up for the field goal. And then he makes the kick and wags his finger and blows a kiss to Scott Frost, which was pretty cool, pretty funny. And it was kind of like a symbolic type thing because they knocked Nebraska out of bowl season. So knocking them out of bowl season is pretty big for a rivalry game. Keith Duncan then went back to the locker room, being one of the best kickers in college football this year, going 29 for 34, was awarded a scholarship by the coaching staff. And that's always a great thing to hear when you got an older kicker who finally gets his scholarship after making something big, and that's always exciting. Another college incident, which I'm sure you were waiting for me to talk about, is the Alabama kicker. Joseph Bulovas, correct? Yep, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Missed a game-tying 30-yarder chip shot against Auburn, and this was a great game. You don't really want to see it end that way. It makes sense that it would end on more special teams in the Iron Bowl after 2013's Kick 6, and everybody kind of felt like Auburn had a good chance in the game anyway. I don't know if you would say they were going to win. I predicted that personally, but some people might have disagreed. Bulovas has not been very good all year. He was 54 of 56 on extra points, which is good. Very good. Don't get me wrong. But 8 of 11 on field goals, and the other night did not make that any better. You would think Alabama could get a very consistent kicker. And it seemed like on Twitter, after Bulovas made his first kick of the game, a lot of Alabama fans seemed pretty shocked about it. So that was pretty interesting that he was getting trolled. And then he writes a letter to the fans talking about how disappointed he was in his performance and how he feels terrible and how he's going to work harder than ever. But in the end, he missed the kick. Auburn still had 2 picks off Mac Jones. They probably deserved to win the game more than Alabama. But you don't want to lose it off a missed field goal, especially a 30-yard one. Speaking of kicking struggles, as good as the Patriots are and as good as that dynasty is, they can't seem to fix their kicker problem this year. Stephen Gostkowski went out in late September with a leg injury. He was put on the IR, season-ending IR, for left hip surgery. They first started with Mike Nugent, who was terrible. Then they went to Nick Folk, who was good, but they released him with the possibility of bringing him back. I think the goal was to see if someone else really wanted to outdo him. And then Kai Forbath just was not it. He was their 4th kicker this season, and the Patriots didn't waste any time. 3 days after picking him up, they just released him after the Sunday night loss, after he missed an extra point, so he didn't do himself any favors. But it appears Nick Folk will probably be back. They haven't officially signed anyone yet, but I'm assuming that'll happen. But continuing with the NFL, on a more positive note, is Justin Tucker. And I don't think you can really argue with the fact that Justin Tucker is probably the field goal kicking GOAT. The only thing that isn't on his resume is kicking in a big playoff game like the conference championship, or not even the Super Bowl. Like making a big Super Bowl, like when you think of those guys, you think of like Adam Vinatieri's 2 winners for the Patriots. And of course it's not obviously like in his control, but it'd always be great to see one of those to like define him as the GOAT kicker, which is always fun. However, he is the most accurate kicker of all time. I think he's the GOAT. He, after the game, said some interesting things about kicking, which I have a little bit of takeaway. So when he was talking to the press, he said he was a little disappointed that he kicked a 49-yarder instead of a 50-yarder. He goes, they asked him why, because it's kind of a weird thing to say. I mean, the closer the better, you would think. But he goes, 50 is a nice round number. And that just tells you what was going through his head. He wasn't focusing on what was happening on the kick. He wasn't focusing on the pressure. He was just going out there and doing something that he always does and something that he's having fun with. And I think that's a key when you're coming into a pressure situation, anything. Just stay focused on the task rather than the magnitude of the task. He then talks about his preparation for the kick, which I think is very important, and I'm going to hopefully get to battle through the elements during the offseason and learn how I'm going to need to kick once the season comes around, how to kick in the elements, like I said. So it was raining all game, which I wish the game would have been a little bit more dry or completely more dry, if that makes any sense at all, because I wanted to see those two teams go at it unbothered by outside influences. Tucker said he changed his shirt at halftime. It was cold and wet. So he intentionally changed his steps so that he wouldn't slip. And he said you have to embrace the moment. He said you can't fear what you're doing. You have to just be excited to do it, basically. And I feel like that's why he's so great. And John Harbaugh does a great job with kickers. He even picked up Will Lutz, who is one of the top 5 kickers in the NFL right now, top 2 kicker with Justin Tucker. And that's just from the two making big, long, game-winning kicks. And that's about all I got from that. And that's all I got for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed.
So hurry up.
I'm feeling pretty good. I think I can make it.
Let's go. It's like pro videographer here.
Oh, did that go in?
Yeah.